Alright, so some transphobia news closer to home. And by closer to home, I mean Wisconsin, because that's where I'm from. So, forgot to make this bigger so I can read while sitting like a normal person. Alright. A Wisconsin teacher is suing the Argyle Schools District in federal court after being fired for failing to use the pronouns used by a transgender student. Because, respecting people is apparently really, really hard. The Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty is representing Jordan Cernak, who taught at Argyle High School in Lafayette County for 2 years before his termination. Lafayette County is in the southwest part of the state. So, yeah. Actually, I'm kind of happy that this is someone who only recently was hired by them, because if it was a teacher who's been doing this for a long, long time, that would have pissed me off even more. But obviously he shouldn't have been around for 2 years, but at least it was only 2 years. The core issue in this case is the school's inability to respect that Mr. Cernak has his own beliefs and the law stretching back centuries protecting those beliefs, said Lauren Gruel, associate counsel with Will, said in a statement. This case touches on one of the most fundamental liberties that one can have in a civil society, religious liberty. Okay, first off, what religious liberty? I assume that this douche canoe is Christian, because most of the country is Christian. So it's a fair assumption. Plus with a name like Chernak. Please. Please tell me where in the Bible it mentions trans people. The closest it comes to mentioning trans is the frickin' Trinity. So, what? Where else does the Bible even come close to mentioning trans people? It doesn't. These are just hateful people who happen to be religious, who are just hoping to use religion as a shield or a cudgel, depending on the circumstance. Because your religion doesn't say crap about trans people. So, why is it so hard for you to be a decent human being? Oh, that's right. You're not a decent human being, because a decent human being, even if you're transphobic, what's the harm in using the correct pronouns? How does that hurt you? If you're going to be in a public school district, then you're going to come across people that you don't like, that you don't agree with for whatever reason. If your religion means that much to you, go to a religious school, go to a parochial school, and then you can discriminate to your heart's content, because you can do that in religious schools. In an interview, Chernak said the issue began in fall 2022 when the school had a meeting about the new Title IX criteria. He said administrators told him there would be a policy change to be more inclusive of identities other than heterosexual males and females. Which is a good thing, because more than that exists in the world. Whether you think that, whether you believe in that or not. Because guess what? There's a lot of things that I wouldn't do, or there's a lot of people that I wouldn't want to emulate. But you know what? If that's the way they want to live their lives, great. And if that's how they feel, who am I to judge? Anyway, from the beginning, Chernak said he was uncomfortable complying with the changes because, only bigots have a problem with that. I mean, seriously, if you were a decent human being, you would be like, okay, how can I improve? How can I improve the way I talk, the way I deal with certain people? Because you're a freaking teacher. That should be the goal, is to make your students comfortable around you. Not go out of your way to disrespect them because you don't get it. There's a lot of things that people do that I don't get. I don't mock them for it, and I sure as hell won't disrespect them for it. Even though sometimes when sexual people get completely on my nerves, I might get a little nasty about it. But I understand that most people are sexual. So I don't begrudge them that because, well, just because I'm different. Okay, that's the majority. I'm not going to go out of my way to say anything. Unless they're being assholes to me. Then things change. I know God, our Creator, has created males and females, and there's no changing of that reality. That's why trans people transition, sweetheart. Because they were born male, but feel like that they are women. Not female, women. Because even though they might go through the surgeries, they understand that they were born male. They are not stupid. As much as you'd like to treat trans people as too stupid to understand what sex they were born as, what biological sex they were born as, that is not the issue. Because if they thought they were born the opposite sex to what they were, they wouldn't feel the need to transition because they could go through the delusion that they're female when they were born male. Not what's happening. But obviously when he says males and females, he means men and women. Because just like all transphobes, he cannot tell the difference between biological sex and gender. So I began to question some of those things that were being told to us, Chernak said. And that should have been your clue that, maybe you'd be better off in a parochial school as opposed to a public school where, the idea is to accept everybody. So, yeah. At first, the district allowed Chernak to not use the students' preferred pronouns on the grounds of religious objections. Well, that was the district's first mistake. But 2 months later, changed its position, the complaint said. Yeah, they probably realized that, kowtowing to his religious objections, which, again, where the holy hell in Christianity does it say anything about trans people? Because last I checked, you guys follow the Bible. Now, have I read every word of the Bible? No. Have I read quite a bit? Yes. And nowhere does it mention anything about trans people. Despite my joke about the Trinity earlier. And so they probably realized, this is hurting a bunch of people, whereas we're protecting one person. So maybe it wasn't a great idea to let him shit on other people. Or maybe someone pointed out that the whole point of preferred pronouns is respect. Either way, Chernak said there were long conversations with his superintendent that made him question morality. Okay. After praying and thinking it over, Chernak said his mind couldn't be changed. Fine. First off, it's great that he started questioning his morality. But, one question, why is it immoral to respect people? Why do you feel like that's going against your own morality? Because nobody's asking you to be trans. That's not the way being trans works. People aren't forced to be trans. The idea is trans people exist. All you have to do is respect that they exist. Even if you don't agree with trans people existing for whatever reason, just don't make their lives harder. That's all they ask. Let them live their lives. They'll let you live your life. It's all good. Chernak said he did try addressing students through gestures rather than names and pronouns. Eventually he got a letter from the school telling him the accommodation was no longer working. Through gestures? I mean, I guess if you're in class and instead of saying, so-and-so's name, you just point and say yes when they raise their hand. But at some point, you have to at least give a name, use a pronoun. I'm not sure why this is... I don't understand why he thought that... Maybe I should start calling him a she, because Jordan is what's the word? It's a gender neutral name. So maybe I should start calling him she. Since, obviously calling someone by their pronouns doesn't mean anything. Because it's against their religion or something. Alright. I had to go against my conscience and religious convictions in order what to do what the school was saying, Chernak said. I didn't want to take part in promoting lies to kids or anybody. Okay. Not your place. Not your place. If experts are saying that trans people exist, I don't give a rat's ass if you don't agree with them. You're not the expert here. If the world says that something exists and you don't believe it because you just don't feel like it. Seriously, what lie is being promoted? Being it's not like you put an idea into the kid's head that they are trans. That's not what's happening here. Nobody is promoting being trans. A lot of trans people would say that they wish that they were just simply born in the right body. A lot of them would rather not be trans. Simply because it would be a hell of a lot easier. Whether it's being born the gender that they identify with now, or wishing that they could have been the gender that society told them they were supposed to be. But a lot of trans people will tell you that they wish they weren't trans. So this isn't something that is promoted. It's like the whole idea of, if we can't talk about someone being gay because that'll turn kids gay. Because, like I've mentioned before, I grew up hearing about straight people and seeing romantic relationships, and I'm still asexual. So, no, that's not how sexuality or gender identity works. Kids know how they feel. Just because you don't like it and you think it's a lie, that's just too damn bad. Like I said, what are you doing working in a public school if this is how you feel? Then there's of course the question of where the hell did all these Christians get the idea that there's something wrong with being trans? Now, obviously non-binary, well, that fits into the whole there's male and female. Trans people are transitioning from one gender to the other. So, technically, they're not disagreeing with you. So, yeah, I would love to know what's the lie. Daniel G., a recent Central Wisconsin public school graduate, said when he heard about the case he was shocked, but not disappointed. He asked that his last name not be used for fear of retribution. Okay. It's very much a part of the teacher's responsibility to show their students that they will respect them no matter who they are, Daniel said. Exactly. This is not about your religious ideology. This is about basic respect. And the people who don't show that are basically saying that we're going to hide behind religion so we can be disrespectful assholes. That's all. It's important for every student to feel respected and cared for, especially in public schools where there's a lot of different students from a lot of different backgrounds. Exactly. If you want to cater to just one type of student with one type of background, go to parochial school because they filter out who gets in. If you don't fit their narrow mold, you don't get in. You'd be much happier there because then you can deny reality all you want. Despite his feelings, Chernak said he hopes for peace for everyone, including his students. But does he, though? Does he really? Because if he really wanted peace for everyone, then why was it so hard not to use their preferred names and pronouns? I mean, look at J.D. Vance. Now, I'm not going to go over he changed his name 3 times. Yeah, there was reasons behind it. It's not like he just decided to change his name. JD stands for, I believe it's James David. Well, he goes by JD. Well, that's a preferred name. By these dumb fucks, he should be going by his full name. He should be going by James or John or whatever it was. He should be going by that, not JD, because that's a preferred name and we can't have that. So that goes against nicknames. Like when I was growing up, I was either Sue or Susie. Actually, my brother and his family still call me Susie. And there are other people who still do. You can tell at what point in my life I met certain people depending on what they call me, whether it's Sue, Susie, or Susan. But Sue and Susie, those are preferred names. I mean, by this logic, then we should never call you by a nickname, which is stupid. So he hopes for peace for everyone, but yet he can't bring himself to have the most basic of common decency to use preferred names or pronouns. Now, granted, if you knew someone before they transitioned, it can be hard, obviously, to change the way you think about that person because they might still just have socially transitioned, which most of these kids have done. socially transition rather than medically, because, well, unless it's really an emergency, that doesn't happen until you're an adult. So, but if you don't even try, that's you showing a lack of common decency. Because if you had the decency and if you wanted peace for them, you would give them what they want. Maybe they were wrong. Maybe they realized at some point in their social transition that they're not trans. What harm did you create by calling them what they wanted to be called? What harm did you do? Nothing. Because kids can figure shit out on their own. They do not need to be told they're wrong and they're stupid for it. Let them figure it out. If they're trans, then the next time you see them at the 20th reunion, they're going to probably look different. If they're not trans, they're going to be the same sex and gender that they used to be before they thought they were trans. What harm was done? They learned more about themselves. Oh my God, that must be horrible. I pray every day for the families and students affected. I'm sure you do. Chernak said, this lawsuit is not against them by any means. It's against the district and its feelings with me. No, I'd say the lawsuit is also about them, because this lawsuit would not have been brought if you could have just been a decent human being. So, I never understood this idea of, oh, Christians love everybody, but yet they treat them like absolute crap. That's not love. Love isn't, oh, I love you, but on my terms. I'll love you even more if you do what I tell you to. That's not love. Love is accepting people, warts and all. Even if you disagree with being trans. Accept that you're not the arbiter of what it means to be human. There are trans people, there are non-binary people, there are straight people, there are gay people, there are ace people, asexual. There's all sorts of different types of ways to be a human. Just accept that and stop forcing people to be like you. And for those who think that I'm being hypocritical, I attack those who attack others. If you are quietly thinking, it's, being trans is bullshit, is one thing. When it affects other people, that's a problem. All right. Now, before I go on, just a moment. Sorry about that. I have my window open, and it occasionally opens my door. All right. 6 months after receiving the letter, Chernak's teaching contract was not renewed, according to the lawsuit. Will claims terminating Chernak on the grounds of his belief is unconstitutional and violates the First Amendment and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It's always interesting to me that these are the same blockheads who have a problem with affirmative action, DEI, and everything about the Civil Rights Act, unless they can use it for their benefit. And then suddenly they're all for the Civil Rights Act. Seriously. That tells you why they feel the way they feel, and it's not because of fairness. All right. So, and as for the First Amendment, the First Amendment does have conditions put to it. And, refusing to treat your students with any respect, well, if you did that in any other way of showing disrespect, besides this being a teacher who refuses to accept that trans people exist, if the disrespect came in any other form, the teacher would get into trouble. So why is this form of disrespect any different? Chernak said he is not seeking his job back. Well, that's refreshing. But he hopes the case establishes a principle that government institutions can't force people to say things against their beliefs. Nobody is freaking forcing you. Once this happened, you could have easily quit your job. Go work for someone whose view of reality works with yours. I don't want to respect people who aren't like me. Okay, go work for someone who agrees with that worldview. That you can bully whomever you want without consequence. You want to do that? Fine. Find a place that accepts that. And if you think, well, why should I have to quit my job? Well, that's the policy. Either you follow the policy, that works for any other issue. You follow the policy or you don't. I fail to see how, and let's face it, Wisconsin is a right-to-work state. So, yeah, he really has no recourse. Even if it wasn't policy. And again, what is it about your beliefs? What is it about Christianity that says that they must hate trans people? And yes, if you can't be bothered to use the preferred pronoun or preferred name, you don't respect the person. It's sort of like if my name is Susan, I go by Sue. And the teacher refuses to call me Sue. They always call me Susan. Now, obviously, I personally don't give a crap, but some people might. Or maybe some people have some wacky nickname that they were given. I had this classmate in, now this isn't wacky, but I had this classmate in school who we all called Germ, for Jeremy. Now, obviously, that was a nickname amongst friends and classmates. It wasn't something for teachers to call him. I had a classmate who went by Tints, even after he stopped having braces, which that's another thing, which is a wholly different thing. But still, what if he wanted to be called that? What if, no matter what, he wanted the teachers to call him that? Do you honestly think that if a teacher refused to do that wouldn't have been an issue? But because it's a trans person who just wants to be called Sally instead of John, suddenly that's suddenly a religious belief and they don't need to respect you? Seriously, someone make that make sense. No matter your political background, I think we can all agree that there is a trend toward intolerance of other people's beliefs and ideas, Gruel said. Oh my God, I think my irony meter just broke my brain. Seriously. Listen to yourself. The only person who's intolerant of other people's ideas and beliefs are you. Because you're quick to scream religious liberty whenever you or your clients decide that you're going to hate on someone simply for existing. How is your hating someone simply for existing not doing what you claim is being done to you? I mean, seriously, that is not how these things work. Are there people becoming intolerant? Absolutely. But you should look in the freaking mirror before you whine about it. We hope that this case will reiterate what generations of Americans have believed. Religious liberty is important and should be protected, and that respect for the views of fellow Americans is vital. Oh my God, do you listen to yourself? Okay. Yes, we have a separation of church and state. But again, what is this about? What is it about your religion that insists that you hate on trans people? And not just hate on them, just disrespect them. Because you can feel a certain way towards trans people all you want. Just when you're in the classroom, treat your students with respect. If you can't be bothered to do that, then you shouldn't whine when people are disrespectful to you. I mean, seriously. Because it says right here, you should respect the views of fellow Americans. Well, obviously, you and your client are not doing that. Because you've decided that your views are more important than respecting other people just for existing. I mean, fine. Nobody is telling you have to love trans people. If you don't want to agree with someone who's trans, fine. Don't agree, pretend they don't exist. Whatever. But if you're in a situation where you have to engage with them, just show them some basic respect and then walk away. And once they're gone, you can forget they exist. Go back to your bubble of hating trans people or whatever it is that you do with your sad, sad life. Because seriously, why is it so important that you disrespect people? Even if you don't agree with it. Okay, here's an idea. Let's remember when kids were little and they would play pretend? Now, as a parent, did you go along with it? Or did you always crush their imaginations at every turn? Now, maybe some of you did crush their imaginations at every turn, but most of you probably allowed the imagination, at least for a little while. You played along like the tea party with all the stuffed animals as if they're all alive and they're all engaging in this tea party. But you didn't shame them for that. So if you think that this is just in their imaginations, how is this any different? It's not. Based on your own logic. But then again, some of you probably did quash your kids' imaginations because you're miserable, miserable people. Okay. But Daniel said it's not about religion, it's about respect. Exactly. These people are just using religion as a cudgel to think that their ability to hate on others should be sacrosanct. It's not hard to respect others' decisions to love themselves. I think in this day and age, it's a little stale to use religion as justification for not respecting other people, he said. Exactly. Exactly. So, that's the part I don't get. Why is fine. You disagree. You're a bigot. You disagree that trans people should exist. Okay, fine. You are in a public school system where you are going to encounter trans people. You don't want to be in a situation where you encounter people that you find icky. Then don't take a job where that's a possibility. It's really that simple. Abigail Sweats executive director of FAIR Wisconsin, a statewide LGBTQ plus civil rights and political advocacy organization, said respect and affirmation are crucial components for the well-being of students. Yes. Actually, I would argue it's crucial for the well-being of anybody. I mean, even as an adult, if you're told enough times you suck because you exist, eventually you're going to start believing it. Obviously, it's going to be easier to do with kids, but the data is clear. Using pronouns that affirm a child's gender identity is a life-saving action, and that makes it the only moral choice, Sweat said in a statement. The Argyle School District attorneys did not respond to a request for interview, which I find interesting. I mean, they're in the right, but anyway. So, it's entirely possible. Just a moment, my door opened again. So, it's entirely possible that people who do this are completely unaware of how their behavior affects others because they are so far up their own asses thinking that they're doing the right thing that it never occurs to them that they're actually contributing to potential suicides because they are so convinced that they're right. And they refuse to accept that they could be wrong about anything. And that's sad. Because if your religion, for the moment, let's pretend that there's actually a tenet in Christianity that actually says that they should, that they should ignore trans people and refuse to accept they exist. Even if that were the truth, why would you want to contribute to a potential suicide? Now, that's assuming that these people actually care about their well-being, which in theory a teacher should. But if you truly cared about that person's well-being, why would you jeopardize that by insisting that you're going to do what you want because somehow your views are more important than the mental health of these children? It's no different than the parent who plays along with Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy because eventually the kid will figure it out. They'll outgrow the belief, they'll figure it out. But our insistence that your religion, which some people would put as the same as a belief in Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy or the Easter Bunny, is that somehow that belief is beyond reproach. That you can actually affect someone's mental health and not care because you're convinced that you're right. I don't know. Like I said, even if you were correct, which you're not, but even if you were, why would you, if you claim to care about a person's mental health, why would you jeopardize that by insisting on calling them something they don't want to be called, that gives them pain? Mental pain, possibly physical pain, because gender dysphoria is a bitch. But why would you do that? I mean, there are certain things that give me the heebie-jeebies. It's like nails on chalkboard feeling, just ugh. So why would I want to seek that out? And why would you want to do that to someone simply because you have an issue with respecting people? Which makes me wonder why you became a teacher in the first place, because again, the whole point of being a teacher is to not mold young minds, but teach them to love learning and to respect your students, because we all have that teacher who we hate with an absolute passion because he treated us all like crap. Yeah, I had a 7th grade science teacher like that. Or was it 8th grade? One of the two. But still, the fact is that we've all had that one teacher. Why are you so insistent on being that one teacher, which nobody likes because they can't even begin to be nice? Because a lot of students nowadays actually give a crap about their trans classmates. And so even if they're not the ones who are being disrespected by the teacher, they will see how they treat other people, and they will see that you suck. And you will forever be known as the teacher they hated. As a teacher, I would think that your goal is to be the teacher that people liked. If not the teacher that they absolutely loved and turned them on to a certain subject or whatever. But at least that they don't hate your guts. I can't imagine any teacher who went into teaching with the stated goal of making their kids hate them. And that's all this teacher is doing. Making not just the trans students, but all students hate their guts because they can't be bothered to be respectful, to be nice to certain people, because they just can't accept that not everyone's like them. Anyway, I'm just rambling at this point. So that is all I have for that article. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video.